turn off your phone, close the door, put on headphones, get your notebooks out. We are going to write. One week in and my hair is already looking way better. Hello, Bradley friends, and welcome back to the Virtual Writing Academy. I've been enjoying this mini-series on world building. It's been a lot of fun. But there is one subject that I haven't actually been talking about, and I'm going to be tackling that today. What subject is that? Well, the act of relaying world building back to your reader, also known as exposition. Before we go any further though, for those of you joining us for the first time, this is the way class is going to work. I will give you a time writing exercise, I will shut up and you will write. Once the time is up, you will stop writing and I will start talking again. Simple as that. Once the time is up, we'll meet again and talk about our experiences. Yes, there is indeed a bit of a lesson, a bit of a secret lesson behind today's exercise, but I will not tell you what it is until the end. Why? Because as I've always said, the best learning is done by doing. So, go grab your notebook or open up your writing software of choice. You can minimize this video if you like, I'll tell you when to bring it back up. In the meantime, I'm going to give you my musical recommendations for today. We have a bit of a special assignment today, and I think that it is a great chance to bring out a couple of playlists that you may not have listened already. So, since today's exercise is going to be dealing with relaying the history of your world to a particular person, it's kind of hard to nail that feeling. So instead, as I was looking through playlists to recommend this week, I kept asking myself, what is the type of music that I would like the most for this moment? And I find that I came back to two particular playlists. The first one is Lost in the Wilds, and I have to admit, I kind of love this playlist, not only for writing, but also just kind of for relaxing. It's a really relaxing playlist that gets a little bit more intense towards the final part of it. So if you think that the act of relaying the history of your world is not gonna be like really violent, and it kind of fits a peaceful musical theme, I recommend Lost in the Wild. Aside from that though, of course, if you're doing a fantasy world, how can I not recommend Royalty and Noble Blood? I love that playlist. I tossed a bunch of my favorite fantasy music in there, so some Game of Thrones, some Lord of the Rings. It's perfect for a fantasy setting. Like, that's all I have to tell you, basically. So yeah, this week's recommendations are Lost in the Wild and Royalty and Noble Blood. Though, of course, if you would like to check out even more writing playlists made by yours truly, you can head over to my Atrix page over at atrix.com/mkieran. As always, you can find links to all of these things in the description below. Of course, you are more than encouraged to listen to your own music. I'm gonna give you a minute to go get ready. In the meantime, I'm gonna be here, killing some time. So you'll go get some music, go prepare your writing software, whatever you need to do. I'll give you a minute to get ready, okay? What? What am I doing? Nothing. Excuse you? I'm the teacher. Go get your stuff. Totally not checking Twitter. Totally not checking Twitter. Oh, by the way, people keep asking me, hey Max, what's like the easiest way to like grab you? Tweet at me. If you tweet at me, I will probably like see it like within like minutes, because I'm always checking Twitter. I do this as though you can see Twitter, yeah. But no, yeah. If you want to get a hold of me quickly, tweet at me at Mr. Kieran. That's there should be also a link to it in the description below as well. Yeah, tweet at me if you have any questions. 140 characters is pretty limiting, so that's why I keep telling people that if you have like a formal writing question, you can send it, like a really long question, and you want to keep it personal, you can send it over to my official email over at mail@mkieran.com. Also, I wanted to spend this segment to talk about like the crazy mug that my artist has that he like lent me for this video, but I ran out of tea. And I've never seen Attack on Titan, so I feel like a poser. So actually, wait. Poster levels increased. Yeah. Okay, let me just revert my neck before, my color before people start attacking me. Regardless of that, I think you've had enough time. So let's dive right in. Are you ready? Before we go anywhere, allow me to give you the formal disclaimer and remind you that you are allowed and encouraged to modify the setting and modify the characters to fit whatever you're working on. Whatever you need to get writing, and that includes going beyond the time limit, is fine by me. And now, let's start! What is today's exercise? Today's exercise is titled, How Things Began. You will have 10 minutes to write from the point of view of a parent or guardian as they explain to their child how their world works. The catch? Their child is going to ask the questions this character does not want to answer. Again, you will have 10 whole minutes to write from the point of view of a character as they explain to their child how the world works, how the world ended up being the way it is. Isn't it true that we forget that we were once told how the world worked? We were not born into this world knowing, the difference in the social hierarchies and the history of our nations and things like that. We were not born with that. We were told through the people we came in contact with, the things that we experienced, and most importantly, the information given to us by our parents or guardians. Consider that. Take the role of someone in that very same situation. Consider yourself torn between telling this child the truth, the entire truth of how this world works, regardless of how scary it may be, and lying to them. Because sometimes adults lie to their children, and it's true. It's done to protect them, and it is sometimes white lies that allow children to grow up without worry of the tremendous things outside their doorstep. Consider the white lies that you or the character you're writing on will tell this child. Or could it be that maybe you're going to tell them the entire truth? Consider, by the way, if you created a world on the previous session, which was on world building, consider this a great chance to flesh that world even more. Enter the mind of this character and consider their place in this world. Consider their history, what they have experienced, and what they're going to tell this child. Because each character is the hero of their own journey, and everyone's history is colored by their experiences. What is this world like to this character? Is there justice? Is there fairness? And, above all, how much are you willing to tell this child? Of course, I won't leave you alone. Allow me to give you a helping hand. Allow me to give you the first line of this story. This story begins like this. I wanted to say that the world needed, but that would have been a lie. Now go, brave writer, and remember that regardless of where your character stands on the social hierarchy, whether they're at the top, filled with riches, or at the bottom, scrambling to survive, remember that they have a history to tell, and their own take in the history of the world they live in. 60 seconds remaining. Alright, time's up, pencils down, fingers off the keyboard. If you minimize this video, please bring it back up. Let's take a deep breath. Now, I know what you're thinking. Max, are you trying to tell me that the best way to relay exposition is by having a character explain to another character how the world works? No, that's not the lesson of today's class. It's a little more different than that. But I felt that the best way to relay that was through this exercise. You see, I think that exposition is best done in little bites. I mean, it's ultimately just my opinion on what has worked for me, but I find that little bites of exposition, little bits explaining how the world works is a lot better than opening your first chapter with the history of the universe. You see, people ask me, Max, how do I do exposition without overloading my reader? And my answer to that is little by little. Explain things as they become relevant. You may be asking to yourself, well, Max, that doesn't work. What do you mean it doesn't work? It's the way we educate children. It's the way we relay culture and history. You know, like, you don't go into first grade and learn the history of your nation in extraneous detail along with the history of the rest of the world. No, you explain things as they become relevant. Again, it's merely just an ask of explaining things when they become relevant. Now, a few of you may be asking yourselves, well, Max, what if an important thing that I did in world building never comes up? Well, then it's not relevant to the story. And now some of you may be, screaming at me and going, whoa, 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 you can't say that. All of the world building is important. Not all of it. I don't necessarily feel that all of the world building that goes into creating a book needs to end up in the book. And I know that to some people that sounds like heresy, but I want you to follow along with me. Follow along with me on this journey, okay? The stories set in New York don't explain how New York came to be what it is today. Why is that? Because that's not relevant. Ultimately, it's just a story set in a city, and in this case, being New York. Stories set in Paris don't explain to you how Paris ended up being how it is, or the history of Paris. It is merely just dropped in Paris, or the story drops you in Paris. I think that sometimes there are things that are relevant to your story, and there are sometimes things that are not relevant to your story. I am a sucker for lore. I love learning how things came to be, but I also stand on the side of story every time. A story is always right, and sometimes things are not relevant to the story. Sometimes the history of your entire world is not relevant to your story. Take it from someone who wrote a fantasy novel, and I ended up chopping out the entire first chapter of Raven's Gem, which had nothing but exposition, the origin of the world, and I replaced it with another prologue that actually focused on the story between the characters, and that worked way better with my beta readers. And I ended up realizing, wow, this really, awesome and powerful and colorful explanation of how the world of Gadin came to be? Yeah, it's actually not important to the story. And I know that to some people that sounds like heresy, and that's understandable. That's what makes writing so interesting, is because there's so many ways to go about doing things. And I'm not here to tell you what is right and what is wrong. That has never been the point of this class. The point of this class, like any other class in creative writing, is to show you how the person teaching does things. And this is how I do things. I personally prefer, as I've said, that exposition is best done in little bites. Little things here and there. Little facts, little factoids, letting you into the world bit by bit. Again, some people may disagree with me and may say that, holding the hand of your reader is kind of like insulting them, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I just feel that a little bit of hand holding is better than just opening your book with a history lesson. That's just the way I feel about things, and that's okay. You know, if you would like to share your thoughts on today's lesson, and if you would like to share your own opinion, let's make this a pseudo discussion video. Let me know what you think in the comments below, share your thoughts, and let's create a discussion. I think that exposition is, of course, one of those kind of hot button issues where some people have strong feelings about them. I say that because I have a strong feeling about it. So let's have a conversation. With all of that said, though, I hope that, if anything, this video has given you another point of view. Again, I don't claim that I am the ultimate piece of advice when it comes to exposition. I merely just showed you another way of doing things, which happens to be my way. With all of that said, I do hope that today's video helps. It was really fun to make, and I love creating exercises like this, primarily if you manage to play along with the setting you made in the previous episode, because by then, wow, you've already created like a really complex setting, especially because the setting from last episode dealt with the world being split in half. So, you know, again, I had a lot of fun making this, so I hope that you had fun writing as well. With all of that said, though, thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe if you would like even more Riley content delivered straight to your soft boxes. Pretty much every day now that I think about it. Regardless of that, though, if you would like even more writing advice, you can head over to my official writing blog over at maxkieran.tumblr.com. With all of that said, though, thank you for watching and thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I hope to be seeing you back in class soon. Mwah. No, yeah, that's true, by the way. I wasn't making that up. I actually did end up chopping out the original prologue. I think I said first chapter. It was actually the prologue to Raven's Gem, which is a novel that I have published. No, yeah, the original first prologue was like the history of Gadin, and it was like really like colorful, you know, my writing style, and I enjoyed writing it. It was really fun, but it didn't fit the story. And I realized that, you know, I wasn't writing a story about the world of Gadin. It was a story about two dumb people who lived in the continent of Gadin, so I focused on that. And I think that one of the things that people forget to talk about is the act of revision, and I want to make an entire, like, huge speech about this later. But for the time being, I want to make it very clear that you don't need to get exposition right the first time around. That's why I prefer doing the little bits, because you realize through the act of revision and through talking to your betas that you may have forgotten to mention a few things here and there. And I think it's better to forget to mention things than to explain too much and then have to chop that out later. That's just my stand on things, though. That's how I feel about it. Don't take it as gospel. You know, like, writing is such a fluid medium and there's really no rules to anything. I keep saying this and I'm going to keep reminding you. There are no rules to writing. There's merely just advice. If you can make your story work, then it works. Simple as that. You know, don't take any advice so serious that it stops you from creating the story that only you can make. Today's writing inspiration is brought to you by Attack on Titan and Amiibos, I guess. I'll see you around.